Hello and thank you for watching. So for today for my 2017 Porsche Macan that's got front end damage, I thought I'd start by looking at an overview of the different parts that I need to reassemble on the front of the car. As you've seen the other videos, you'll see the car had all the front end parts removed. So I've started by highlighting the parts that I've actually now got and of the ones I still need. So I still need a couple of the little air guides. You can see number 6, part 11 at the side there, the small parts. Don't need part 9, that's the front camera, and I haven't got an intercooler yet. But the rest of the parts obviously I do have, and I've got a few of the nuts and bolts, different brackets of that are required. So I should be able to fit 14, which is the sort of main bumper reinforcement bracket. I've got the bumper reinforcement bar itself, and this number 3, the radiator, it contains a number of different screws and brackets, so I've got all them. So I'll start today by reassembling them. I'll probably just have an initial test fit of these items. I'm aware that I don't have the electrical harness which runs across 1 and behind 13, so I'll need to get that, and that will be one reason I won't be able to completely fit this. Maybe it'll fit and then have to be taken back off. But I also found by looking at the manual, found reference to the horns. I must have misread it the first time for where they're located. They look to be just under these reinforcement bars. I imagine there's probably one horn each side. So I think when I go and look at the parts again, I'm hoping I find obvious location that the bracket for the horn is supposed to go into. So I'll go down to the garage now and get started. I've laid out all the parts which have either arrived this week, or in the case of these brackets, the ones that are sort of sorted. So this is one I bent back last week. So a couple of welds put on either side, not quite as pretty as the one on the other side, but just painted a bit of satin black over it, and that looks as if that is, as I would say, good to go. I'll get that refitted. I've got all these other bolts that come for the bumper reinforcement bar. That's them all laid out there, and obviously that foam piece that goes in front of it. That one goes in one of the other guides that sits in front. I got a seatbelt arrived this week. Came all the way, I think, from Lithuania very quickly actually. So that's the other rear. If I put that back in, that'll allow me to refit the rear seat. This piece here is the one last week I recognised that cam was broken off it. For the passenger side seatbelt mount, so I can get that fitted. See, I think I'll have to cut the other one out because it's just this piece that slides up and down is fouling on the other one, so I'll just have to make sure I just cut the old piece out and don't do any other damage. And then all of these other washers, bearings, screws, now they are all for fitting on the radiator, and also going into the radiator will be these oil pipes and the couple O-rings, and the screws for holding them into the back of the radiator as well. So round here at the front of the engine, I just want to highlight where these hoses, which the oil lines that I've got, you can see here that they've been joined together as a sort of temporary repair because the radiator was taken out, and if we look back under here, that's where if it sort of connect the hose to the other line that comes from the transmission. So I will have to disconnect them. I need to look a bit further into it though, because obviously as soon as I disconnect them, I'm expecting, because this is a fairly low point, I need to double check if it's actually lower than the transmission, and I'm therefore likely to get oil running out of it. So I need to review what I want to do there to make sure I don't lose any more oil. Obviously need to top it up anyway. I just want to check that before I start disconnecting it. Just above that, obviously that's the end of the chassis leg, so I'll be able to connect the mounts that are sitting around here. Obviously work out which way round they go. That's obviously helped by the part numbers. Generally odd numbered part numbers go on the UK passenger's side, left side of the car, and the even ones generally go on the right hand side. Things that are not handed generally get odd part numbers, fairly covering both sides. So I'll start get a couple of these parts actually bolted onto the car. And it's nice to see that, having put the brackets on there and the bar in place, that the holes for the bolts are lining up perfectly on both sides, which is great, when it says that indeed it is non-structural, because otherwise they wouldn't be lining up. So that's good news. So I'll carry on and get these bolts in as well. So the bolts that come up through these holes, I thought there was maybe captive nuts, but there's obviously not. So they must actually bolt into something which is sitting on the top, and I think I'll have that piece in the box, my big box across here. So given there's all these other radiator mounting parts sitting on top of the box, I think I'll make that up first, and then see about getting the piece out that's likely to fit over there. There's obviously some indentation, I guess, where it's going to sit, so we'll get that all sorted. And a few minutes work can turn this to this. So the brackets are connected at the bottom, it's all screwed in. There's a couple of screws there that I haven't put in because they do go through the plastic brackets that are at the bottom, one on each side, but obviously connect to something else. And at the top here I've put in the rubber mounts, but not pushed these little fasteners home, because I'm assuming that they are actually going to be holding something else in as well, or holding this to something else. So I'll leave to see what other pieces I've got first before I actually locate them. It'll just be easier to leave them out to start with, rather than pushing them home and having to use the little clip inside to lift them back out. In the interest of clearing the space, clearing stuff off the top of the box that contains all the radiator parts, I thought I'd quickly fit this seat belt. That obviously just trim to be removed from the back here. Get your hand in to get the bolt. That obviously sustain mandatory blood loss getting into tight space to get the bolt out. Lifted the seat belt out, just in behind here. Take the lower bolt out in the back, that's just below there. Obviously refit. Then that allowed me to put the seatbelt, rear seat back in. A little bit awkward getting these middle fixings back through, but managed to do it, and obviously it's back in, and that's cleared a bit of space because there's actually a couple of things back into the car. So I've test fitted most of the radiator parts together. As you can see here, they're mostly sitting one on top of each other. So the vanes will come out, there's nothing really holding them in. I'll just take them out. And behind that, you can see we've got the air conditioning condenser that's actually clipped in front of the radiator, and it's then got the fans clipped behind it. That sort of air guide is also clipped on the front, and we can see this bracket here will sit here. I had to lift these little clips out that were at the corners of the radiators. That's obviously where it's going to go, so that's all fine. However, there's a bit that I'm not quite so sure about, because if I look at the radiator connections on the back, there's the one large one down the bottom, the two sort of silvery ones there as well, which will take the oil lines, so that's fine and understood on that side. And if I go around to the other side though, and look at the back, we've got a small one at the top, larger one immediately below that, and down the bottom is the one where I put the cap that I was given that apparently goes with the radiator. But that then means that I've covered over one of the caps and I've only got two connections. But if I go back round to the car, I can see I've got my matching one on that side, that's fine, plus I'll get the two oil lines. But on this side, on the passenger side, we can see the two up the top, they're fine, they'll match up. There's one down the bottom and it runs to the coolant tank, so that's, let's say, the one that's got the cap over it at the moment. I'm not quite sure why, therefore it's thought that I'll need the cap if actually there are the right number of connections. So I'll need to do a bit more research on that. So obviously I won't be fitting the remainder of the radiator today. However, I'm quite pleased that I made some good progress there, got a lot of things sorted out with it. So I'll get on with that hopefully in next episode. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. So before I go in, I thought I'd just do this last piece. I had to pull this bit of plastic off the seatbelt mount, just about to see on the back there. That's actually broken there, and that was what was fouling, I think, when I couldn't actually pull the mount down to get to this bolt. Obviously breaking the plastic off, I can get the bolt off, and that means I can refit that, so that'll be another piece refitted. Cheers, thanks. And before I went to put this video together, the penny dropped that this bracket, this intercooler bracket, or it certainly holds the intercoolers on turbos, it's just more of a frame, I think, holds the bumper in place on the cars that have just got the centre intercooler. This frame sits behind the brackets that hold the bumper reinforcement bar, so I had to take that one off on this side and fit it. It then connects at the bottom to the brace that I had straightened, and connects up at the top corner to a screw that was sitting in place but had nothing to connect to. So I don't have a comparable one on the other side, still need to get that, but at least I realise on this side where it needs to sit, and obviously gives the connection as to where the radiator is going to connect to when I sit that in place in the middle. So at least the penny's dropped now, and I've obviously got some more work to do, but thanks again for watching.